Jazzy intro to a podcast about books. Welcome to episode 1 of Literary Crack. I'm Shane Lowe, here with my man Justin Hurd, and we're going to talk about books and not jazz.
Yes, we are. Yes, and we will have the best music of any book podcast you've ever listened to. Guaranteed.
Damn right we will.
This episode will contain explicit content. Not that much, but still.
I said damn.
So just be aware.
It's a real problem.
Yeah, you said damn. Yeah. Oh no.
Sorry.
So if you have kids in the car, just know, you clicked it's marked as explicit. You should know. But if you didn't
It has
know,
crack
now you do.
in the title.
Right. Yeah. What do you think this is gonna be? A
I
kid
don't know
show?
what you
No.
expected. If you have to come back later,
We're so happy.
Put it in your calendar. Like, come back, set a reminder when the kids go to bed. Don't abandon us. Just wait till the right time.
Yeah.
Come back.
Or just wait till you're driving by yourself or working out in
Right.
the gym or something and come back to us. But we're so glad you're with us. It's a brand new podcast and we are going to talk about books. We are really passionate people and we read a lot of fantasy stuff. So that's what our podcast is. It's going to focus on fantasy, sci-fi, speculative fiction, that kind of thing. We do read things outside of that. We do read nonfiction. We just don't read a lot of it necessarily. So most of the things we focus on are going to be fantasy related, including...
What we're trying to say is that we're not that smart, and you as the listener, your job is to educate us.
Exactly. You need to tell us what books you like. We will have segments where people come on and update us on what they're reading, and they aren't always reading fantasy. They read other genres too, so that'll be fun. We'll get some other genres in there, but in terms of Shane and I, that's pretty much what we do.
Absolutely.
For whatever reason.
But for the sake of
what we like.
cohesion, this first episode is just Justin and I. We have to become endearing characters. We have to make you like us first before you bring in the rest of the cast.
Exactly.
It's very important,
And so
especially given today's topic.
Yeah,
to be
and so
really
to make
likable
us
today.
to make us the most appealing we could possibly be, we are going to explain to you why your top 10 series are not our favorites.
Absolutely.
Because
I can't wait.
the series we're going to talk about today appear on a ton of lists in top 10s, and they're not on ours. So we're just going to talk about them. Some of them we've read, some of them we just haven't read yet. And this is before, depending on when you're listening to this, you may not even know what our top 10 are. So if you don't know,
It's true.
then in a future episode, if you've listened to this one already, you can guess what they might be, and you're going to be totally wrong because there's no way you're going to predict it. But
That's right. This is even better as an episode 1. It's like, if you stand for nothing, Burr, what do you fall for? It's like, you don't even know what we like. We just like,
Exactly.
we just know what we dislike. You know that we like
Exactly.
Hamilton now. We've revealed that.
Yeah.
7 years late, people.
Can't believe you made a Hamilton reference.
I can't either. I thought about it and I decided, I consciously made the choice. This is a thing that I'm not going to say. And then it just happened. So.
There you go. Orthodox
Good.
Christian theology, this is the apophatic methods. We describe God by starting out by saying what he isn't. So I'm just using this method for our books as well. So you got Hamilton and you got theology going for you for this episode.
Absolutely. And with that in mind, with Orthodox Christianity and Hamilton in mind, why your favorite books are not even in our top 10. We told you the best.
All right. So starting out at number 1, A Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin. Now, I'll start with my reasons. We don't necessarily always have the same reasons. My
We just
reasons
lost
for
half
this
our
are very
listeners.
simple.
People just
We
just
did, yeah.
left.
Sorry, you tuned out. Yeah, sorry. Give us a chance. Let us explain ourselves.
Please.
I think it's a great series, honestly. I really do. I think the characters are great. I think the plot is really good and interesting. I think it really does a lot for the genre as well. It drew a lot of people in, and I have a lot of respect for that. The problem is that it's never going to be finished. And you can yell at me all day about that. Maybe another author will finish it. I don't know. But I'm not one of these people that's going to rank a series in my top 10 that's I don't know will be finished. I don't think that's fair to people, and so that is my reasoning for this one.
I agree. I don't think it's fair to people who have completed their series, but also to authors like Brandon Sanderson who have picked it up and continued the legacy of guys like Robert Jordan with The Wheel of Time. Like that's a unfathomable Herculean project to say, this is 11 books. These are the notes that I have left. Pick up the pieces and create and finish the series. It's for someone to do that with A Song of Ice and Fire, I feel like would be like George R. R. Martin has all the opportunities to finish it. I don't know. He's the joke that I've been making forever is like he's just bowling at this point. He's buying bowling alleys. I don't understand why he's not finishing the book. And I was going to watch the show instead because everyone gave it rave reviews, but then the last 2 seasons went to shit. Like, all right, count me out. Enough people. I've never heard a single person say, you know what? The books weren't finished. The show is totally worth it. Everyone hates the ending. And so that's enough for me. Without one single good review that I've heard, I'm out on the book and on the show. But the other thing that bothers me about Game of Thrones is how it's just so damn gloomy. Like there's no camaraderie in Game of Thrones. There's not a moment where I'm drawn to a group of characters. I'm like, oh yeah, these are my people. I love these guys. I enjoy watching these characters. There's some characters I feel that way about, some individuals. But it gives me like a less extreme Joe Abercrombie vibe. It feels like The First Law sometimes. It's like it's all wintry and desolate and everyone hates their lives and everyone's miserable. And they're all striving to achieve unattainable things, but they're not optimistic really about it at all. It feels very pessimistic. And I feel like we get enough of that on, I don't know, Earth? We don't need it in Game of Thrones.
It certainly is pessimistic, and I think what's concerning, and there's a conspiracy theory going around. We know for a fact that George Martin did tell the show writers what the ending was. So we know that, like, we don't know if how they got there could have been very different, but we know that the ending is the ending. At least at the time that he submitted that, and then everyone hated the ending. So it's like, well, now the conspiracy theory is that now he has to change the ending because everyone hated it. So I don't know. It's well, I don't know. And it's been.
Do they hate the ending though, or do they hate how they got to it? Like maybe George told them the ending, but not how he got there. And so they just like extrapolated a bunch of nonsense that everyone hates. Maybe that, I don't know. Maybe
yeah, I mean, it's possible that they hate the ending because of how they got there. Like maybe it would have been a good ending if it was approached a different way.
Maybe.
But I don't know. It's also been 13 years. I don't want to reward an author for 13 years of waiting, and that's just not. I just don't think that's okay.
Yeah. The second one on this list, I feel a lot better about. And when I actually really enjoy this series, but it's just incomplete. It's been incomplete for a long time, and it makes me sad. This is the Gentleman Bastard series. I'm blank on the author's name. I know it's not Scott Stapp.
Scott Lynch.
Okay, that's
Scott Lynch.
The other Scott. He's not in Creed.
No.
This has the things that I don't like about Game of Thrones. It has so much camaraderie. The character drive is there. I love the people. I love the plot. And I think I've heard rumors that we have a release date for the 4th book, but I'm scared that the series won't get finished. And something that Justin and I, we agree on a lot of things. Unfortunately for you as the listener, because we won't argue too much. We will soon, actually. But something that we agree on is we can't read unfinished series anymore. There's too much media to consume to worry about rereading a series in every 3 years when a new book comes out, and that's sort of my problem with Gentleman Bastard. I do feel like it will eventually get finished, but right now it isn't, and so it can't make my top 10.
Yeah, I think Lies of Lachlan Mora and Red Seas Under Red Skies are the first two. I mean, those are fantastic books. Like they're really good. The third one was not great. It wasn't bad. And I don't know if that's where he's taking the series as a whole or not. But I don't know. The first two are great. I think you can honestly read the first two and just ignore the third one if you really want to, and it'd be fine. There's not really
Probably not.
any cliffhangers or anything that you're really stuck on.
I think you'll need it for book 4. It sets up book 4, I think, in a pretty meaningful way.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. But if we never get a book 4,
like right
if it's
now.
just gonna stay
Sure.
how it is. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, and just keep.
That's true.
Keep the first two are fine, but yeah, it's just we just don't know if it's ever going to be finished, and yeah, I'm okay with reading series in progress if it's very fast. Like if I know I'm going to get the next book in a few months or something. But the honestly the big issue, a lot of people talk about like, oh, I don't read series that are unfinished because I'm George R. R. Martin and others have ruined it for me. But for me, it's just a memory issue. I start losing details after a year of what happens in a book. I just don't remember. And I do have to reread. I do have to look at recaps. And I don't like recaps because recaps are always inadequate. They don't get everything. So I feel like I have to reread a book because I forgot. Yeah. So, so yeah, you'll notice in this podcast, we don't read a lot of unfinished stuff. There are exceptions to that for sure.
Like what we're reading right now.
Yeah, but what we're reading right now, there's it's a web serial, so there's stuff coming out every week.
Shout out to the Wandering Inn.
Consistently.
Talk about that later.
Shout out to the Wandering Inn. Yes, so good.
Jeez.
But yeah, it's generally it goes, and we have read series that are not complete yet. Back when we were reading series like that, like I've read the first 2 Stormlight. We've read the first 15 Dresden Files. So we've read several different things like that, but it's just there was different periods of life that we could do that in.
For sure.
In a different way.
And one of those is the Kingkiller Chronicles, which has gone nowhere. All right, hold on a second. I can see you looking for your ex. Just give me a second. Like, the thing is with Kingkiller is like, okay, yeah, it's beautifully written. I think the prose are great. Patrick Rothfuss is great, a great author. I do like the way that he's crafted that story. And I think I enjoyed Kingkiller for the 2 books that we got. I'll be honest with you, I don't care about the novellas. I can't get invested in the novellas until we have a main thread that's continued, because I don't want to invest my time in that. But like those first 2 books, I don't think you didn't enjoy them very much, did you?
I didn't. I didn't even make it to the first one. I got like all the chapters in and was like, nope.
I liked them a lot. I liked them a lot. But isn't there now like this? I won't harp on this for long because I know you get it. We hate unfinished series. But like, didn't Patrick Rothfuss promise a chapter? It was like if you reached a donation goal, he would release a chapter from book 3, and it like never happened.
Yep, it's to my knowledge, it's never been released, and it's been like over a year.
Wow,
so
that's brutal.
I mean, I don't think that's okay for an author to do either, and I think that's just really wrong.
You can't stop Brandon Sanderson from dropping chapters left and right from stuff.
Yeah, Sanderson released like a third of his books online now for free before they even come out.
I know.
Yeah.
Michael J. Sullivan will give you his whole book in advance. Like
he will.
It's crazy.
No, it's crazy. Yeah, I don't know what Rothfuss. He made a whole YouTube video about it where he just gave a bunch of excuses, and it was just nonsense.
That's so sad.
This is where our reading tastes differ, and they do differ. For me, I loved the prologue. I think the prologue to Kingkiller is awesome. I was like, this is so cool. And then it's like, okay. And then we get into the story, and I couldn't handle the I thought it was over the top flowery writing, and I was like, this is just way too complicated. It's taking me out of the story. Like, it might be beautiful, but it's taking me out of the story. And then even I might have been able to get past that, but then like really for the first like 100 pages, whatever, 11 chapters, like nothing really happens. Pages. Like, yeah, first 11 pages. Yeah, that's a prologue. It's the best part of the book.
Right, exactly.
But yeah. The first 100 pages or so, like nothing really happens. Like it's just something happens with the wind, and that's about it. And you're just on a carriage, and I'm just like,
wind stuff.
All right, I don't know. I just didn't appreciate it at all.
You
I
don't
know
appreciate
people love this
meteorology. I don't
series.
know what's wrong with you. If you had more
I know
refined
what's
tastes,
wrong
we
with
wouldn't
me.
be in this predicament. We would agree on more.
So yeah, even if it was finished, I would not. This would not be in my top 10. So to be fair to Patrick
That's fair.
Rothfuss, it's yeah.
That's fair. That's like the Dresden Files would totally be in my top 10. I'm just waiting for it to get done. I love the Dresden Files. I want more books.
Yeah.
Jim Butcher, I will donate to you. I want more books. Let's do it. Come on.
Yeah, please stop writing Aeronauts Windless or whatever it is, and like just finish
That's true.
this, please. Like you've been writing this series since 2001, I think, so long time, and that's great. And you've written great books, and so I'm not complaining about how many years it just finish it, and then stop adding books. Like it just keeps getting
think-
longer.
Yeah.
And
He started
the books
writing
are
that
coming out
series before I
slower.
ate my first chicken nugget. Like,
Yeah,
come on, man. That's,
yeah.
this next
exactly.
one's yours. I don't know. I never even tried to read this.
So the next one, and this will really kill all of our fan base. Lord of the Rings.
Kill them all.
By Lord of the Rings. J.R.R. Tolkien. Look, I grew up watching the movies. I love the movies. They are awesome. I know they're different from the books. I love the movies. I did try. I read like half of The Hobbit, and then I just dropped it for like no particular reason. I just like never picked it up again. It wasn't bad, but then I tried Fellowship of the Ring, and I just couldn't like. There were just way too many songs and like poems, and I was just like I really don't care, and like way too many like info dump things where it's like, oh, let me tell you about the history of the world, and I was just like, I don't really care. Like I just kind of want to go through the story, and I think what
not reading
hurt it
Pact.
honestly is
Come on.
exactly. I Packed by Wild Bows of Web Syrup, if you don't know. But I think like maybe if I didn't know what was going to happen in like a broad sense, because the movies do differ obviously, but if I didn't know like where we were going, I might have stuck with it maybe. But it's just not for me, and I think that's fine. You know, the books they're old now. I'm sorry if you're like a fantasy reader that's in your 30s or 40s. You're not old, but those books are. And like
You're a
there's
little
things have changed a lot. Language has changed a lot. Our like pacing of what we want in books has changed a lot. And the whole genre has changed. And like I will never discredit Lord of the Rings. It is a foundational series. We would not have fantasy the way it is. So this isn't about saying like, oh, it's not my top 10 because I think it's irrelevant to the genre. Like I fully respect that, and it's amazing what he accomplished and all the things he did. But if the top 10 is based on my enjoyment, Lord of the Rings is not going to make that list.
Yeah, if we're talking about top 10 impact, then, you know, I'd have to put Chronicles of Narnia up there as well. But in terms of my
Yeah.
enjoyment, God, the last book of that series was a tragedy. The last book of
Yeah.
Chronicles. I struggled with continuity issues all throughout that series. But the last book in particular, that's all I'll say on this matter. This is outrageous.
It's a wild ride.
It's a crazy
Yep.
ride.
The next one I also put on this list, and this will potentially also lose our fan base, so we're doing a good job. This next one is Malazan, Book of the Fallen by Steven Erikson. This is a really popular fantasy series.
I've never even heard of this. I would love to read it.
It's
Just because
it's
you
really
hate it.
popular. Yeah, exactly. You should try it.
I should.
There are reasons why I haven't even tried reading this, because I know what I don't want in a book series, and based on how people describe it, I don't want it. The way this has been described to me, very frankly, is that when you start book one, you don't really know what's going on. Like, you don't understand the main conflict, you don't understand, like, the magic, really, you don't understand anything, and your characters seem to understand, but, like, you as a reader don't understand, and I don't really like that. I want to kind of understand. I'm okay with not knowing what's going on if my characters also don't know what's going on. But like if my characters do, I think that's a little confusing. And my other big pet peeve is like I hate that we get characters in book one, and then when you go to book two, you're with totally different characters, and then you come back
always
to
makes me
those
sad.
eventually.
I get
Yeah,
it,
I'm like, well, why don't
but
I
it
just
never-
read 1,000
yeah.
pages?
it's never fun. Like, I've gotten attached to these guys, if they're good characters, and then they're gone. I don't know what happened. I get it.
And that's why book 4 of Song of Ice and Fire sucks, because you
It's all the
lose a
boring
bunch of
people.
characters that you love. Like,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And speaking
yeah,
of,
I'm not a fan
I'm
of
gonna
that.
shout out the people in the comments who are mad at us for putting books on our list that we haven't even read, and to give you that ammunition, because I know you need another point for your comment. I've got your back. I'm here for you with the next one on this list, A Court of Thorns and Roses, which neither one of us have read. Sarah J. Maas. And this, the reason this isn't at this point I've become a very I preemptively judge books. I've gotten a little jaded. I would be totally honest. Like, if someone recommends a book to me, and I think this is fair for most people. Like, if I recommend a book to you, you know what you like. And you know, when I give you a description of the book, whether or not you will like that book. Like, and at least 75% of the time, you'll be right. And this is one of those for me. It's like, this isn't what I enjoy reading. It felt like a 50 Shades of Grey explanation. My favorite thing to ask people a few years ago is like, what is the plot of 50 Shades of Grey? Like, if you cut all of the romance scenes out, what would you have left for 50 Shades of Grey? Because I'd never read it. I was genuinely curious. People were like, well, there's like a lawyer, and then there's like a beach, but then I think they have sex there, so I have to cut that part out. But then there's like the lawyer's like doing something. And that's sort of the impression that I get of A Court of Thorns and Roses. Like, there's not a lot of substance happening. It's more like, it's more for the sake of the romance. Nothing wrong with that if that's what you're into. We're gonna have people come on this podcast who are huge romance fans, and I'm really excited about it. But that's why it wouldn't be on my top 10.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not one of these readers that I see so many times people are like, recommend me books without romance in it. And I'm like, that's stupid. Like,
No,
romance
that's
is
dumb.
it's a part of life.
Romance
it's
is
a huge
great.
part of character. Yeah, like, it's fine, but I just don't want to read a book that's mostly focused on that.
Right,
It's just
yeah.
not my,
It should be part of the plot
not my,
for me, not the whole plot.
exactly.
That's all. That's all.
I'm going to interject a series here that we didn't put on our list, but we do have to acknowledge. And we have read this one, as opposed
Okay.
to the last two we just mentioned. And this series is The First Law by Joe Abercrombie,
Oh, yeah.
which we referenced earlier. This series is... I'll be honest, I liked it when I was a nihilistic teenager. And that's no shame to the fans of the series. But like when I was super nihilistic and I enjoyed things that had like everybody loses, everything sucks. They were good books because I was like, oh, I've never read anything like this before. I've never seen this trope twisted in this way. Yeah, it's a real story.
This is a real
You know,
story.
nothing good happens in life, and this portrays it. And you know, just. That's now what I don't like about it is that I think it's way too bleak and I just don't see the point of it. Like the whole thing, I mean, Glokta has a good arc, but like in the initial trilogy, at least I haven't read the new stuff. But it's at the end of the day, it's just nothing really mattered and everything's kind of back how it was, arguably with the little changes. But like it's just sad and depressing, and I can't do it.
Yeah, that's fair. I agree. I want to read to escape the world that I'm living in. I certainly don't want to read to be in a world that's worse than the world I'm living in, which like is not true in some sense. Like I read about lots of worlds that are in all kinds of crazy situations, but the difference is like the characters have optimism and the characters are fighting for something that's exciting. This everything is just terrible in this world. The only book in the First Law that I like, it's one of the novellas. It's like I think it's called A Hero's Road or something. Or wait, maybe that was a different one that I read. But there's
It's
one
not
of the
Heroes
three.
Die.
Is it Heroes Die? That sounds right.
Not Heroes Die. That's I know what you're talking about. It's the war one though, right? Where they're they're all at war and all that. I think it's like the
all I
Lost
know is
Heroes.
it's the
It's
only
Heroes
one
or
that has a
Die.
happy ending. I like that one.
Yeah, the ending
don't
wasn't
remember
bad.
what it's called.
Yeah.
But you
I
didn't like
liked
that one.
No, I thought it was kind of boring. I liked Best Served Cold. It's a revenge story, so I don't really like revenge stories anymore. But Best Served Cold was. I saw there's this guy that had this power of like slowing down like time or like speeding himself up. I'm not sure what he did exactly, but he was
yeah.
super powerful, and I was like, I have no idea how they're gonna kill this guy. And it was just really cool and action packed and a lot of fun. But and that one does have an arguably happy ending. I mean, there's success, but it's not. It again. I don't like revenge stories anymore, so I can't really do that.
Who knows? It's all hollow in revenge stories.
Yeah,
It's either hollow or cliche. Um,
exactly. The
I
next
don't have a
one
great
on our
segue. I
list.
don't feel like this next one is hollow or cliche, but it's the next
No,
one. So
it is Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. Now we Shane and I read this in two different ways. So I'll start with mine because I bailed out the quickest. I made it a third of the way through book one. I deliberately read until my thing said 33%, and I was like, all right, cool, I can drop
yep.
this. There is one reason why. I have no idea why anyone can tolerate. Was it Spin?
Spin. Yeah.
Spin, yeah. I have no idea why anyone can tolerate her. She is incredibly annoying. She is completely. I don't. I mean, she's a teenager, still fine, but like she's just so full of herself, and she just does so many stupid things, and it's like, oh, what could go wrong? And I'm like, stop it! Like that's just dumb. Don't do that. And I
You're
get
at
it.
war,
Like she's
lady.
a teenager. Yeah, I don't know. So I got so sick of her as a character, and I was so tired of like honestly, I was the adults in the series. I was like, you guys are so rational. Like you guys are making so much sense. And then yeah, I didn't like how
No, that admiral was a bitch. She was terrible. She was not
yeah,
rational at
yeah.
all.
But like the trainer guy or whatever.
Oh, yeah,
that was
no,
like
he's
trying to
great.
help her.
Cobb is awesome.
Yeah, I was like, come on, like just he's trying to help you. Like back off. And I don't know. I also didn't like the classic trope where, like, for whatever reason, the teenagers are the ones that are doing like the important stuff, and I was like, why? Like, why are these people in this situation? This is kind of weird. But that wasn't as big of an issue. It was mostly just her character, so I bailed out. Shane made it farther though, way farther than
Yeah,
I
I
did.
made it. I made it a third of the way through book 4, the last book in the series, before I gave up. I loved book 1. Actually, I'm gonna be honest. I was, I was glued to book 1. It was like, that feeling. It's one of the best feelings ever when you're reading
Yes.
and you can't like rip yourself away from the book. Like you can if you have to, I guess, but your whole day centers around when you can get back to that book and like seeing what's going to happen and seeing where it's going to go. And that's how I felt about this one. I had a lot of faith. My wife and I were reading Mistborn at the time, so we were like super uh we were like very ingrained in Sanderson lore and Sanderson books. And so I was just so excited. And book 1 didn't disappoint, minus I didn't like the tropes. Like they were like, oh, there are invasions and no one else is around to handle it. I guess it's gonna have to be the new people. Like, of course it's gonna be the new people because they're the ones who were. But like, I feel like a number of the explanations were better. I feel like even if he was leaning on some of the tropes, he justified them pretty well. I I feel like Skyward though took more of a fantasy direction after a while, and I was really into the sci-fi stuff. So like after book 1, it sort of started to slow down for me. I liked book 2 pretty well. After you get about 100 pages in, you sort of get the plot sort of makes sense, and it gets interesting, it gets riveting. Book 3 is like, what the heck is this? There's a great plot twist though. There's a really great plot twist in book 3, but the plot is so out there, and it doesn't feel like science fiction anymore. It's not what you started reading the series for necessarily. And it feels like we're juggling more like powers and magic systems. And then by the time we reached book 4, I just didn't have faith that the series was going to be going to have an epic ending, that it wasn't going to have the kind of ending that I was looking for. And something that I struggle with, that I have to remind myself, is like, I'm reading for my entertainment, and I'm reading because I'm enjoying something. And a lot of times I will, because I've committed to a series, I've got to finish it. I've got to finish it. I've got to get a little farther. Maybe it'll get better. And like what I tried to remind myself, because I've just spent so much time doing this now, is like, if I don't like something, I don't have to finish it. I don't have to complete it. I can move on to something that either I think that I'll like, or something that's come really highly recommended that I know I like.
Yeah, and to be fair, we put this in this list, but I don't know. I mean, I have another friend. We have another friend that read book 4, and he was like, "Did Sanderson write this? Like, is this?"
Oh yeah, he was like, "I don't even think Sanderson wrote this." He didn't like the ending either. I asked him. I was like, "Give me the Wikipedia plot summary of book 4," and he told me, and he was like, "No, it was awful. It was not good."
Jeez.
Yeah.
So maybe now this isn't a popular series anymore ever since book 4 came out. But
maybe
I will say, like, obviously you don't base everything on Goodreads ratings, but like the Goodreads rating for Skyward at the time was like off the charts. It was incredibly high for book 1, and I was like,
book 1 was so good.
So I didn't get that.
It was fun.
Yeah, I know. And obviously we're split on that one, but so that's why we put it on this list, because it's
okay. Now,
book
up
1
to this
was
point,
highly rated.
Up to this point, I would say I've been pretty polite. Like, agree to disagree. Everything's cool. Like, this is not for me. Maybe I'm not the target audience, or it just didn't hit me the right way. This next book flat out sucks. This book is shit. Awful. I'm not holding back on this one. This is garbage. I'm not even going to tell you what it is. I'm just going to talk about it. People are going to just make assumptions. Like, oh my god, he's talking about Lightbringer. Oh my god. This is I'm talking about Riley Adamson. This book is terrible. It's a series, actually. I got through book 1. I made a commitment. I made a mistake, is actually the word I'm looking for. I said, we had a new listener on a show that we were doing, and she was like a little nervous, to talk about the book she was reading. And I was like, look, I'll make you a promise. Give me one recommendation. I promise I'll read it. And she recommended the first book of Riley Adamson, and I read it in graphic audio. Shout out graphicaudio.net. Phenomenal dramatized audiobooks.
Mm-hmm.
And please don't think of Riley Adamson as a reflection of the work of graphic audio. It was so tropey. It was like lady with mystical power, detective girl, but the FBI doesn't like her because she has mystical power, and they have one dude chasing her because they're not really that serious about it, but they're a little bit serious about it. And she takes on clients who pay her to find stuff for them, but like mostly rich clients, because she's got to pay her bills, but she still lives in a really shitty apartment. And she like hates the FBI agent, but is like a little bit turned on by him a little bit, because he's an FBI agent. He's like super manly. And it's just like all these supernatural tropes, and like it's so corny, and there's nothing interesting happens. It's like YA fantasy for adults. It's like cheap young adult fantasy for grown-ups who have degrees. I don't know. It's just not my thing, and I didn't enjoy it at all. And I don't know why we have it. I don't know what purpose it serves. It's like it's not good. I'm sorry. It's not good at all.
The larger question is, why did Graphic Audio spend time adapting this thing? And
because
I don't
shit
know
is
what
popular.
the answer to that is.
People read it.
Yeah.
People love this stuff. Okay, look.
Jeez.
I'll tell you why I stopped reading it. Maybe I've lost a few people. Maybe I'll bring you back in with this. Maybe you can share my frustration. At the start of book 2, our main character gets a prophecy. And it's, first of all, you gotta do a good job with prophecies if you're gonna write prophecies. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
But this prophecy is like, there's a deep, pervasive darkness in your future. Oh, where's it coming from? Who's to say? Who could be responsible for it? Who's to know? It's just coming. And only you have the tools. Only you have the means to save the planet. Like, what? This, come on. This is not what we've had enough of this. It was so corny. I felt...
That's terrible.
This is why I'm scared of things like A Court of Thorns and Roses. If I didn't read shit like Riley Adamson, I probably would have given A Court of Thorns and Roses a try. All right? I don't usually give spoilers. I don't give spoilers in this podcast. We make a separate section for those. But I'll tell you one spoiler about Riley Adamson. That's so stupid. So just skip forward. I'll say it within 10 seconds, so you can jump right over it if you want to. It doesn't even take till the end of book 1 until she's banging the FBI dude. Not even the end of the book. He's been chasing her for 10 years. And they're having... This is crazy.
Because of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Talk about your stupid book.
All right. This is my passionate...
I'm all riled up.
Rant.
About this.
Mine, I don't think this is in people's top 10 necessarily, but this is one a lot of people like. And it's called Nevernight by Jay Kristoff.
I love this book.
Exactly. Nevernight is, well, I don't even know what the trilogy is called, but essentially it's about this girl who is
the Riley Adamson trilogy.
Exactly. She wants to be an assassin, so she goes to like assassin school, which is like Hogwarts for assassins, and that's fine. It's a cool concept. I was like, okay, it sounds fun.
It sounds interesting.
The narration of it is pretty good. It's got some jokes. It's got footnotes. I couldn't read any of the footnotes, but that was fine.
Wow.
It's
because they're in school.
They
have to write footnotes.
Exactly, yeah. Well, it was like apparently like funny like meta commentary or something. I don't know. I missed most of the footnotes, I think. None of that is my issue with it. My issue with this, the biggest issue is the sex scenes. The sex scenes are like incredibly graphic, like very graphic, and it's teenagers having sex, which to me, I know it's fine, and yeah, we can like differ over whether you should put that in books or not, but like it's not marketed as young adult as far as I know, and it was way too much. It was way too much of that. I didn't like how graphic that was, but even if you do like that, my problem is I'm just gonna totally tell you the ending of book 1 if you like the series. I'm not gonna tell you like all the exact details, but essentially she's got this person that she wants to kill, and she's like, all right, I'm gonna kill this person, but to do that she has to kill like hundreds of people, like all these soldiers and stuff, and the main character's like, yeah, okay, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna kill all these people, and like they're just innocent people. There's like soldiers that work for the, they don't know, they're just soldiers. And she kills all of them and then, goes to kill that guy. And I just thought that was ridiculous and unnecessary. And I also got mad because for some reason, like, she's shocked that the assassin school is, or like the assassin guild, they call it like the church or whatever, is corrupt. Like, she's shocked that this evil organization is corrupt. And she's like, they were the good guys. What are you talking about? Like, what do you think? Like, why do you think any organization... it's just so... I'm like, this is idiotic. And then my third thing is, I think the universe, like, actually wants her dead. Because if you, like, shine this light on her, like, this holy light, it, like, starts burning her. Like, she's not a vampire. It's just, like, a reaction to holiness, I guess. And I was just like, doesn't that tell you, like, maybe there's something wrong with you? Like, maybe you're the problem here, and you should, I don't know. Like, it just seemed, I really don't understand what people see in it. I thought the ending was enraging.
Maybe it's a total counter narrative. Like, maybe it's the one where it's like, just to see how smart the reader is, and actually you should be rooting for the villains, and by the end the villains win, and they conquer our main character. And she's just the POV. We're just following the antagonist the whole time. It'd be great.
I wish it was. I mean, to be fair, like the guy that she's going after, I mean, he is a terrible person. He's like a corrupt government official. He like kills her whole family in the beginning of the book or something.
That's rude.
Or kills her father, I think. So, you know, it's obviously they're not great and there's corrupt people there. But like, obviously there's corrupt people in the church, the assassin church, whatever they call it. I don't know. It just felt edgy for edginess sake. And it just, the sex scenes were, and like apparently the sex scenes just go on. Like if you read book 2 from the reviews I've read, so I was like, oh, maybe I'll give it a shot. But like, no, she just like bangs her way. I literally read a review that's like, oh, she just bangs her way to like the top to get to like her people.
Literally,
and I'm like, I just don't.
Figuratively.
I don't want to read that. Like, it's not what I signed up for. So
Justin, that's modern.
I was really
corporate
looking forward to
culture.
this book. There you go. Exactly. It's that in the Assassin Church, I guess. And I was really looking forward to this book. Like I'd had it on my list for years. And I've been waiting for the trilogy to be finished and for me to like get to it on my list. So I was super excited. I was like, oh, Assassin Hogwarts. Like that's a lot of fun. And it was just such a letdown. So I've heard his other series, like Empire of the Vampire, is better. I don't know if I'm going to try it because I just had such a bad experience with Nevernight, but I have heard people that dislike Nevernight like this other one. So maybe one day I'll give it a shot, but that's
Okay.
not my thing. Let's talk about Mortal Instruments. This was a popular series back in the day.
Yeah.
They made a TV show out of it even. I actually think the first book isn't bad. I think the second book's actually really good. I liked
Yes.
it. I don't remember like everything about it. It's been
Book
years.
2 is great.
But I just remember being
fun.
like, that was cool. Like,
Is that the ship
it
one?
was the third book.
Is that the one with the ships?
Yes.
I vaguely remember. It has like a boat in it.
Yes. And there's
That's
something
all
with like the carving into the side of it, like sigils and stuff. I don't know. It
Yeah,
was
they're
super
doing some
cool.
crazy stuff on that boat.
I liked it. It was the third book that turned me off, and I can't, like I said, I can't tell you exactly why, but I remember I was reading this in the car, and I was like on the last 100 pages of the book, and I was like, okay, this is what's gonna happen, like play by play, and
You told
this
your mom.
only happened with this
This is what's
series.
gonna happen.
I nailed every single detail of what was
Wow.
gonna happen, like everyone.
That's not
that's
good.
the only time I've done that, and I was like, that sucks, and I just dropped it. I was like, this is so. If I can so easily predict what you're gonna do, you're not worth my time. And I left it. So sorry for all
That's
the Mortal
crazy.
Instruments fans out there. Shane got farther than I did, but
I did. I think I finished it.
I think you did. Well, they had like prequels and stuff that I never think.
I didn't do
I
all
don't think
that.
you ever read, but I think you finished
think I just read the
the
six.
main series.
I think so, yeah. I think so. I think it was fine. It was just like average. I was like 14 when I read it, so it was like
Yeah,
a lot of the. To be fair, I read it after I read Game of Thrones. But yeah.
Yeah, I read
just
Mortal
felt
Instruments.
pretty
I
tropey.
started it in like 2014. So yeah, I
Yep.
would have been like
Yep.
15,
I would've been
16.
14.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my honorable mention, just to close us out, is called The Forest Kingdom Saga. I read this one as sort of a joke. It's like it's like a macro kids book. So it's like a transition for kids into epic fantasy. So it's probably, I would say, designed for like 12, maybe 13-year-olds. Don't quote me on that. And just to explain why it's not in my top 10, I'd like to illustrate the opening scene of the book. It's a hero. It's our hero and our hero's unicorn, and they're traipsing through the forest. They're on an excursion to save a princess. And the hero is like, we really got to get moving. We got a lot to do. We got to make this happen. We have a long to-do list today. Saving the princess is just the first item. We got to get to it, man. The unicorn's like, hold on, I really got to take a piss. And the unicorn just starts whizzing in the forest. And it's just this unicorn walking around, peeing in the forest. And you might think, this sounds like a great book. I would love this. Unfortunately, the rest of I read only like 3 hours. It was a joke. But like unfortunately The rest wasn't as funny as, I really got to take a piss. And he's just walking around. I don't think that's what he said, because it's technically a kid's book. I think he was like, I really got to go for a wee. I don't know what he said. It was like, something like that.
You can find the accent and everything in graphic audio.
True.
It is
in
a full
graphic audio.
Yes.
Full cast book, all 10. This book is like 15 hours long. You can give it a read. Give it a shot. Next time we're going to talk about all the books that we like. So come back for that one. If you hated this one, you might like the next one.
If you love this one, definitely come back, because if we are your people, then we want to, not only do we want to tell you what we love, but we love to hear what you love as well. So give us a shout out in the comments. Let us know what you think of this episode. If you hate anything we hate or love what we hate and why you disagree, we'd love to hear from you in the comments. So yeah,
Absolutely.
just reach out.
We would love nothing more than to get into a keyboard war with you. Here, we want to know what you want to see coming up in this podcast. This is your show. We want to hear from you what you want to see in it. We have a ton of segments planned. We have some weekly updates that we're going to start with here soon. But first, just for these opening episodes, giving you a little bit of context about some of the crazy outlandish stuff that we say. Thanks so much for being here.
Yep.
This is Literary Crack. Smoke that shit. But not real crack. That's illegal. Just like the sex scenes in Nevernight.
Exactly. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Literary Crack Podcast. We want to hear from you. Send your comments and questions to our Instagram and Twitter at LiteraryCrackPD, or you can send an email to literarycrackpodcast@gmail.com. See you next time.